Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of Pensado's Place. His name is synonymous with great music, great stuff, and brilliant thought. Yes, it's Jack Antonoff. Absolutely. You're going to enjoy our conversation with him. He's got a lot going on. By the way, if you're at AES in October 19th, Dave will be there doing a panel. Stop by and say hello to him. Before we get to Jack, just want to remind you about the GPU Audio Sound Design Contest. You only have a few weeks left. If you're a sound designer, composer, producer, creative, you get a chance to contribute your work to a short film called The Few and the Cursed, and you get to do sound design. We partner with GPU Audio, Dell, NVIDIA, Mantra, and AMD to bring you prizes. 2 grand prize winners will win $2,000 worth of stuff, a laptop, AMD Radeon Pro W6600, GPU Audio Unlimited Access, plug-in boutiques, on and on and on. Complete value about $5,500. There are 6 second-place winners, 3 in animatic, 3 in live action, and you'll win GPU Audio Unlimited Access, plug-in boutiques, Mantra IO Oracle X, which you'll also win if you're a grand prize winner. To enter and download the assets so you can contribute your creativity, go to pensadosplace.magicalrealms.co. You got to get them in before midnight on October 27th at 11:59 to be exact. GPU kicks ass. We like them. They're reinventing how you can use more power to process what you do with music quicker, better, and all that stuff. Good for you, GPU. Also, you're going to see a segment soon from us on Audio Movers and Listen To. Literally how you can have lossless audio streaming from your DAW. You can collaborate with no loss. You don't have to send huge files. You can work on audio in real time. Stay tuned for Audio Movers Listen To. It is really off the hook. And without further ado, Grammy voting is in. This is one of our all-time contributors who is just flat out brilliant. I love what he came back and sort of commented on in a recent controversy around Kanye. And I really respect his approach and his thoughtfulness. He's one of our all-time favorites. Without further ado, here's Jack Antonoff.
My favorite place to be.
What up, Jack?
Our yearly hang, 3 years going.
Oh yeah, and here's the first place I want to go. And it's in the form of a question and a congratulation. One, congratulations on nuptials. And what does that, having that partner has got to be something that enhances and takes the creativity to a whole other place. Am I close?
I think for studio people, you could spend your whole life just in the studio. And when you have a place you want to be outside of the studio, it makes that studio time even more special. Seriously, it does. You know, and I it's the first time I've had that. Obviously, I've never been engaged before, so it's really changed my relationship to it. Not in a way where I want to be there less, but in a way where I got somewhere else I want to be too. So I'm making the most of the time that I'm there.
I'm going to give you props as a guy who has, along with incredible musical chops, you got incredible player chops. You have moved around amongst the best so that you can make the best decision for you. And
I'm trying her. I'm trying.
You're doing pretty good.
Hey, Jack, do you notice the sound changes when you take the glasses off as opposed to having them on?
Yeah. Are you kidding me, man? These so much reflection. Because if you think about it, so if my ATCs are hitting here, right?
Yeah.
Theoretically, the sound is shooting from here against the wall and then reflecting. So when I take it off, I mean, much drier tones.
I like to work with them on. I like the sound of them and I like the look of them. So I was just trying to see if I could take advantage of that myself somehow.
Well, you know, a lot of cats have mentioned that when they move to context, their sound changes. So yeah, you got to look out for it.
There's a bad joke that I could make that I won't about an incredible. Let me not make a Stevie Wonder joke. Although I will tell you one that
I'm here for it if you want to.
All right, so I'll tell you. So We have a friend, Dave and I have a friend named Steve McKeever who oversees Hidden Beach Records, and he and Stevie Wonder are very close.
Yeah.
And Stevie went out to his house. So Steve lives on the beach in Malibu, and he has 2 seagulls that come regularly and feed from his balcony. So there's footage of this. So Stevie's sitting, eating. He's having a meeting with another guy named Leonard Richardson and Steve. And Steve and Leonard go in. The pigeons see the opportunity, and they go take all of Stevie's food off his plate because he can't see them. And Stevie says, "The seagulls know I'm blind. They took my food. They know I'm blind."
Oh my gosh.
The Stevie story that I've heard, I don't know if it's true, is I've had a bunch of crew through the years that have worked with Stevie, and they say that Stevie's crew does this bit where they'll walk him into a road case and close it, and that Stevie loves it. And that I've heard that from multiple crew members that Stevie's open to the bits about his inability to see, which he sounds like obviously the greatest musician of all time, but maybe also has the greatest sense of humor.
100 years ago, I was at a party for a guy named Bill Wolfer, who was signed to our label, who Stevie really respected as a keyboard player. And Stevie came to the party. And oftentimes, if you're playing music and it's not right, Stevie will say, "Get out of the way. Let me play it." Right. And in fact, it happened with keyboards. I forget, Steve McKeever was playing something. He said, "Man, get off let me play this." So Stevie was playing at this thing and had just enough to drink. And at some point in time, he knows that we're also overly respected. So he took his glasses and started doing this and just playing around and freaking us out, like, because we didn't know how to react. Like, can you laugh? Can you not laugh? And he was having a ball. So yeah, apparently he is not precious about it.
Yeah, just another fucking thing to love about him. That's just, like one of those people, every story you hear, just like the coolest.
Amazing. Man, you got a lot going on, man. Bring us up to date. I know the studio building, Taylor, other projects. Where you want to start?
It's all kind of one thing I like about having a few things going on is you wake up in the morning and then you get to move in the direction that you're inspired to move in. Yeah. And I feel this way often with not the middle process. Like I feel like writing to mixing and mastering, those are the 2 bits that I really have to feel super inspired, to get it right. The middle part, I feel like I can go to work, and if I'm working out production or tweaking some bits or whatever, I can just kind of work away and have fun. But I don't know if you guys ever get this way, but when I'm in those final stages or those beginning stages, like if I'm not feeling it, I really don't want to push it.
100%.
And I think that's something that's nice about, which I've always enjoyed about having other things to jump to. If I'm working on something and I'm just not getting it, take a walk and then open something else. That's totally different. If I'm trying to finish a mix on like a real like pop song or something, and I'm not getting there, I'll flip and just work on some score, which is just a few like violins or something, and just totally take myself out of it. So that works for me.
You had a quote with the Bleachers, which, by the way, good work. I love your Bleachers work. You said that touring with the Bleachers is like having a different wedding every night. Can you expand on that?
Yeah. So the way we play, look, there's different styles of performance.
Yeah, of course.
And no one is better. It's just sort of about the artist and how they like to do it. But the way I grew up performing, and I think this comes from, the fire hall shows in New Jersey, the sound of New Jersey. There's obviously very Asbury Jukes, Southside Johnny, East Street mentality of sort of like
Johnny.
Yeah. Whereas the performance is at once a performance, but the real thing going on at those shows and at my shows is between the band and the crowd trying to make a 1 + 1 = 1,000,000.
Yeah.
And so what that does is the only way to really achieve that is, first of all, to just tour our asses off, play our asses off, get to a point where we're so in tune and tight with each other that we can hit higher levels of kind of like playing in consciousness. but there has to be a sort of last night on earth quality every show. If I'm thinking about not blowing out my voice or only giving 95%, it's almost like zero because and that's, I think the idea about it being a wedding every night, I think of a wedding as sort of like, it's the only night on earth when you're at, when it's happening for the people who are choosing to be involved with it. And, that's the only way I've ever known how to play. It can be a little destructive on the body and spirit, but that's what the band does. And we're trying to hit this place, and we've been there, and our audience has been there with us. So we're either going there or going to die trying.
I think that as a friend and a fan, one of the things that I always am so touched by with your approach to music is that I think that same spirit, even though more measured and obviously completely keeping the artist in mind and finding that place that fits and being able to be collaborative, the Jack side of it always is about hitting a mark. If you're a fan, you notice it. It may seem effortless, but I know for you, good isn't good enough. There's a place where your psyche says to you, okay, this is correct. Anything before that's not good enough. If I go past the red line, let me go back and look at it. But there's always such a standard to what you do that I know it's not easy, but am I close? Is that a conscious thing?
Oh yeah. I mean, well, to me, and I'm sure you guys have this when you're working, it's like you're looking for that voice that actually, it's almost like a calm that comes over me. Yeah. I feel this way when I write something I like, or when I hear final mix, where I either feel this immense calm, which is like, whoa, it happened, or I feel this tightening where I'm trying to convince myself it's done, but there's a voice saying, no, you got to go back. You got to go back. Exactly. And I think that is actually one of them, almost as important as the craft itself, is the ability to listen to that and say, because at the end of the day, what we all do is not a sum of hours. We've all been in the position where we do something in 5 minutes that's better than the thing we've been doing for 6 months. Yeah. And I think you have to be, as a producer, a writer, mixer, a performer, any of those things, you have to be totally willing to accept that truth and not let it drive you crazy.
Yeah.
And that's why I always think it's sort of funny when people do what we do, have big egos, because it's such a powerless job. I mean, every time you do it, it could be your last. That's you can't turn it on. I can't do a magic trick and just show it to you every time. And so, but I think I'm in a bit of a precious place, which I tell anyone who, as I say, gets invited, because you spend so much of your life as an artist uninvited. So you're only putting your best work forward because no one's asking you to do it. Right. Then if you get to a point where people see you a certain way and they want you to produce their records, they want you to mix your records, or they want your sound, you have to be even more precious, because then everyone's saying, no, give it to me, because they can essentially make money off of it at that point. Right. And I think that's a super important place where I'm in now, where I put up another wall and really just try to quiet the noise and listen to that voice if I think something's ready and good enough.
Hey, Jack, I love the Beatles-esque song video. And I challenge everybody that's listening to this to go watch that video in an hour and a half. I learned so much from that. And I just wanted to let you know, I don't really have a question, but man, the way you work is I had no idea the depth of that. And describe a little bit of what you think I got from it, because I'd like the audience to leave knowing a lot about that.
Well, my hope, I think you're talking about a video. I think Rolling Stone put it up for a song called "Good Morning," and I think they titled it like sort of the Beatle-esque production. What I was talking about in the video, so the courage I get from listening to Beatle recordings, and some recordings from that time period in general, but at the beginning of stereo, the choices were insane. And it's funny that we've sort of gone the opposite way. I feel like things are, obviously we're not mono and now we're even spatial, but I do feel like your standard stereo mix is obviously way more conservative from a panning point of view.
Yeah.
And I just, as someone who grew up on the Beatles, and as someone who's sitting there with my faders, panning isn't a simple technique to make something sound more rich or interesting. It's definition of hook. You take a standard Ringo beat and you pan it like you would a normal drum kit nowadays, and you've got a boring beat. You take just the room mics and put it all the way on the right, and all of a sudden it's like, holy shit, what the hell is going on? And then you put the bass all the way on the left, and it's entirely not glued to the drums because you've almost the opposite of what we're trained to do. How fun was it to be young and to pull out an earphone and just hear John Lennon's voice? And then obviously then you get into, the higher level stuff. The more you record of, when I first started recording, I understood panning. And then I think Michael Brower was one of the first people. I think he actually developed a plugin, but early on when I met him, he was talking about the sphere. And then, I'm talking to people who invented a lot of these things and do them masterfully. But if you start working with panning and volume, then if you start working with panning and reverb, then if you start working with panning, reverb, and high and low pass on that reverb, you start creating effects where it's not right to left, but it's going completely, this, I don't want to open the spatial can of worms, but like, I've kind of always seen stereo is 360 in its own way. But the Beatles give me the most courage when I'm sitting there and when you're messing around and you just start muting stuff and throwing stuff left and right and being crazy just for fun. Why not? Why isn't that the final mix? I don't know, might not react well on radio, but bigger fish to fry.
I've got some presets on his on that thing, pretty good presets.
Yeah, I haven't messed with it. I really want to. I get very I haven't used a plugin that does that. I get very like technical, which takes so much time, but we're all just like work, with delays and making delays not just go quieter or louder or left to right, but actually make them feel like they're going like up and left and really playing with it.
You obviously record or whatever, track, play, mix, write songs. Does the location matter? Do you do it differently in LA than when you do it in Nashville or when you do it at your home studio in New York? Or is it just about having the environment? Oh, it's different?
I find location to be as vital for me as gear. And I also know I was just living in Paris for a while because my fiance was working out there, and actually the mix with the Masters guys built a studio in Paris called Rue Boyer, and I was working out of there. It was really cool. Because you're taking your experience of the day with you. You're taking everything with you. So you see, something as simple as the landscape or the fashion or the way people talk or the taste of the coffee. I'll give you a literal example. When I'm in LA, I get this buzzy thing where it's like this cliche LA thing where it's all happening out here. And it is, most people in my lifetime have been out here in the studio scene, and I know, right, I'm at Conway right now, right? So I know someone's next door doing something cool, and someone's next door doing something cool, and I know Henson's up the block and cool stuff is going on, or that place you just told me about that creates this buzz in the music. It's literal, it's tempo, it's feeling. Maybe I'm working with a little more high end, even if I'm mixing something out here. Maybe I'm more bold because I can imagine the sea of people doing what I'm doing, and I want to cut through. When I'm in New York, I'm very much more in touch with people because I see people. So in LA, I see studio people. I drive to the studio. I see musicians. In New York, I'm walking the street around Electric Lady or my apartment. So I'm imagining my music more through their ears. And then obviously, you talk about Paris or some remote studio, or sometimes I work in New Jersey or anywhere you could possibly be. We spent some time with Bleachers at Paisley Park. That was obviously a completely wild experience, but I'm very, the color of a TG2 or an Unfair Child or this board or that board, in my opinion, pales in comparison to the emotional color of what you put into it based on your day and how you feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything affects us. I had an assistant come in with the most ugly hockey jersey, and it had like 20 colors. I gave him $10 and it had told him, go get a white T-shirt. You just can't work that way, right?
Yeah. Well, you got to feel, to your point, Dave,
affects you.
I remember, I think it was Charlie XCX. I feel like she was the first person who said it. And then I just noticed people saying it a lot, where sometimes I'll be in the studio with someone and they'll come in, looking cool. And it's like, Verdine White was the ultimate one when we were working on some of the video stuff. He came in full fucking Verdine. He was just ready to be on any stage. And he was just like, if you don't look cool, you can't play cool. And it's just sort of, everyone's got their own version of it. But I'm telling you, yeah, exactly, man. Like someone's shirt or like the wrong piece of art. It's like, you got to feel your surroundings and you got to feel yourself. And you don't want to feel like any cheese anywhere.
Yeah.
You want to, whatever your definition is of that.
Yeah, for sure. It feels to me like, and this is unfair pressure.
Lay it on me.
It always is magical when you guys get together, but it feels like something is going to jump off with you and Taylor in this next record. Have you guys started the process of writing and preparing for it?
I won't say too much about it because I always want it to just be sort of heard. But what I will say is, I mean, I've only been at it so many years, but we're getting into sixth, albums together that we've done things on together. I first worked together in 1989 was my first experience with her, and even in my short time of working with other artists in my bands, like. It's really, really rare. It's rare that you can be in a room with another person and make anything.
Mm-hmm.
Extra rare that you can do it more than once.
Mm-hmm.
And we just have something that through the years, we've just kind of felt the same way about culture and art and the world. And because that's really, really what you're doing. So it's like, if you have this magic ability to make something with someone else, that's like step A. But then there also has this other thing, which is you have to, especially if you're dealing in popular music and, you're not in some corner of the sandbox over here, just doing some weirdo shit, you have to really be in sync with that person about how you see the world. Because it's so nuanced, like, this thing is cool, this thing is cheesy, and you have to really line up. And just me and Taylor, for some reason, just always through the years, it's been quite a number of years at this point, for some reason, just every time I see her, every time I talk to her, every time we make music, I'm just really fucking with her opinions on stuff. And I'm just right there. I'm just right there on her takes about culture and where we're at and where it's going and where it should go and where it shouldn't go. Because at the end of the day, these sort of mega deep conversations about the world we live in is a way that people who are making something are essentially trying to get out all of the muck to just find a little sliver where they can fit in, where this idea they have can slot through. And so, I don't know what it is with us, but I just,
but it works.
It just really works. And I try not to question it. And then we get to this place every time I'm in the studio with her. I'm always kind of like, we have such a history of work that part of me is like, how are we going to find new space or top that? And then, like all great relationships, I wake up the next morning and I'm like, oh, we did it. I play the thing back and I'm like, fuck, man, there it is. It's all new and it's all special.
I got a question for you. You talk about that moment in time where you just came awake, but you're not fully awake, but you're not sleepy either, and it's a very short time, in a matter of minutes sometimes. How do you handle that, and how can I make mine last longer?
Man, that's my favorite. I think it's the most inspired, scariest, clearest. It's sort of it's my favorite. Definitely most inspiring part of the day. I'm not a night person. I like going out. I like drinking sometimes. I like going to dinner, but I don't like working at night. I feel very exhausted by the day. And I like my work to be very clear. So when I wake up in the morning, there's this moment, and I guess this is the moment we're talking about. It's before I almost imagine like 100 balls dropping. It's before all the facts drop, right? Like before you're like, I got to call this, I got to do this, blah, 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 blah. This person's not well, I got to do this, blah, like all before all the anxieties hit, you're out of a dream state, but you're sort of in this clear moment where I find myself thinking about the things that are important to me. So I hear sounds, I get ideas for songs, I can feel like my heart and imagine where I want to take my music. And then sometimes in 2 seconds, boom, life hits me. And I remember all the stuff I got to do. And sometimes it's longer. But I do, Dave, spend my whole day when I'm creating, just trying to touch that moment, what happened there, and just trying to re-access it, because I think for what we all do, that's our greatest power, is to access something just deeper than, I mean, isn't that music, right? If we're talking here, that sort of collective subconscious thing is ultimately expressed, in my opinion, through music, where it's like, and so I want to write from that place. But yeah, if you learn any tips on how to hold that space longer, let me know, because it's my favorite space.
Would you say that, and I'm making this up, but when someone says I'm in the zone, that's probably the same thing, right?
Yeah. Well,
we've been in the zone.
Yeah, that weightless space where, like,
yeah.
And what's crazy about the zone is you don't know you're in the zone until you're out of the zone.
No,
because when you're there, you're not thinking. It's always like, sometimes I'll be like, whoa.
Yeah.
You're like, oh shit. Like, I was just fucking mixing my ass off for an hour, not thinking about anything. Or I was just playing and writing, and then you kind of wake up and go, whoa, how do I get back there? And I think that's the magic and the torture of this work, is there's no route. It just does.
The zone is like those guys that twirl plates on a stick, and then they go to this one, then they go to that one, then they go to this one. And then somebody walks in the room and all the plates go.
Yeah, exactly. But I think, like, I'm sure you feel this way, right? Like, I think we all do this because it quiets the noise of life. You know what I mean? Like, this is the only place, whether I was a kid with a guitar or today being in the studio, good times or bad, zone or not, there's nothing bad about this place. I have no strange or conflicted feelings about what comes out of this place.
Right. In fact, for me personally, I think maybe for others, it's regenerative.
It is.
If everything has been taken out of me during the day, and I can go get in my car, put on some music, accelerate, and it's just me and the music and maybe some open air and some open space, I come back from that recharged and ready to go. And so it's an elixir that has to do with my sort of life force. And I don't have to make it heavy and think of it that way. It's just, that's what it does to me.
Same,
so it's precious in that way. And it's also really an honor to talk to people who actually make the music that's regenerative for me. Cause like, I'm talking to my doctors.
Well, you're making me think of something which I've had lots of conversations with people who do this, which is that if you leave the studio and you feel depleted of energy, it's not the studio, it's something you're working on or someone you're with, and I think I always try to protect the studio, because the studio is a magical place. Like,
that's right.
If you're on your drive to the studio in the morning and you're like burned and you don't want to be there, it's not the studio, it's the project or the person. And there are wonderful people who you love, but who can steal energy from you because you just don't match up. So, so I always try to just, for myself and other people, be like, it's the studio is a playground from heaven. That's not your problem. I mean, it's a human thing happening.
Exactly what Quincy says. Quincy says the studio's church.
Exactly.
And it's a place when you go in that God will visit. But you got to be in there doing the right things for God to visit. It's set for him to visit. And
totally, I always feel that way, where it's like, if you're out there waiting for the ideas to come to you, you're not, like, you got to put yourself right there. So, because the truth is, like, when it hits you, you let it flow through, or you don't, but it doesn't last very long.
That's right.
Another thing that I'm curious about is your concept of always trying to do things that are connected to a time period. Can you explain that? I think I know what you're saying, and I don't know if that's something like the Springsteen thing where you go back to Jersey. But elaborate on that, because I think that's an important way to be.
I think there's facts about the gear we use, right? So, it's impossible to use any gear that isn't linked to a time period and then doesn't have a sonic imprint. Mm-hmm. So if you pull up a Prophet 5, no matter what the hell you do to that thing, there is a sonic imprint there that reminds people of a time period. If you're messing with, like, I like that Goodhertz plug-in Lossy right now, which kind of fucks everything to hell, but that sonic imprint is right now, you know what I mean? Yeah. And then in a couple of years it won't be, or maybe it's even a few months ago or whatever it is. So I think knowing that and playing with it is important. Like, if I'm getting my low end off of a Juno, I'm taking someone to a place, and then I can either play with that place intentionally or leave that place intentionally. Like, so if I want to put some sonic on top of there that's super modern, then I like knowing that I'm playing with this 80s and modern blend. And so I just think landscape, time period of gear. I mean, so I guess the way I just answered that is very specific gear wise. I also think it's important from a emotional soundscape writing thought process of, like, where is this coming from? Is it coming from everywhere? Is it coming from space? Is it coming from Texas? A lot of my favorite music, I just sort of drew these connections, where they're coming from. Like, you talk about Quincy, it's like, you can see the studio, the landscape, you see him on that podium, kind of directing or whatever. You talk about Outkast, you feel Atlanta. You talk about the Beatles, you feel they're part of the world, and then when they come to New York and America, you feel their otherness in America. Obviously Springsteen, you feel the stories of New Jersey.
Do you consider Jack Antonoff to be connected to a time period ever?
Yeah, I think the general place that I'm reporting from is pretty much New Jersey in the early 2000s, because that's when I really started to understand my sound and put it together. And that's when I was at an age where I started reporting. I was kind of a kid before that. So I get older and I make music all over the world and do different things. But the thread that I find between my music is someone reporting, I call it shadow of the city, but from right outside the city, wanting to be in, not being in, loving it, hating it, feeling less than, wanting to get away, but also loving the community. It's that's where I report from. That's my DNA. Whereas the person who grew up dead center of Hollywood in 1980 or in 2018 or whatever it is going to be reporting from that zone, for better or worse. So I just think you gotta, I keep saying this phrase, but you gotta report from your, I mean, like, Dave, where are you? Like, it feels like, whether it's specific in your sound or not, it's like where you grew up, you're still coming from in some way.
Yeah. I put a little Cuba in everything I do. I have to.
I started to interview you, Dave. I was going to talk about the Cuba thing.
Yeah, I want to hear about the Cuba thing. Let's go. Well, because Dave, where did you grow up?
Ybor City in Tampa, Florida. It's kind of a Spanish ghetto.
So that's like, I mean, that's a perspective.
I grew up listening to Vicente Fernandez and Celia Cruz, those guys, Gloria Trevi when she kept her clothes on.
But I feel like if you love yourself enough, right, or accept yourself enough is a better point, then it allows you to accept your lens. So it's like, at the end of the day, like, I could talk to you about New Jersey all day long, but like, your lens is that. And you could get it, and you could probably mix the shit out of something because you know what you're doing. But at the end of the day, like, that's your lens. And so like, that's what you're bringing to the table, which is, I don't know, at some point it was around early 2000s. I mean, like whatever, like 18, 19, I'm just like, this is it. This is me. This is, I can do anything, but this is the lens in which or the filter in which it comes through.
Yep.
Let's change the subject. What is it with you and FaceTime?
What have you heard?
Huh?
What have you heard?
Well, I mean, who the hell are you calling so much?
I like FaceTime. I think in general, a lot of
Don't blush now. Be honest.
I think I'll be honest. I think right now we're living in a sort of culturally unprecedented time where most modern advancements are actually bothering people, and everyone's sort of going back to the farm, back to the flip phone. But I think FaceTime is the shit. I love being able to look at people. I've been criticized
and yourself.
by.
You like looking at yourself.
I like looking at myself. Yeah, I like making sure I don't. I'm not like leading from the face. But I just, especially with collaborators, like, and they make fun of me about it. But I'm just always, someone wants to talk about something, working on something, sending some song back and forth. Let's just FaceTime and talk about it. But I feel like my relationship to a lot of my friends and collaborators is like, oh, that motherfucker's FaceTiming again. Jesus Christ.
The technological advances that, I always feel like we're just in a constant industrial revolution, and I call it an industrial evolution. There's something coming at you guys all the time, the newest, the greatest, the other, the this, the that, the other. And I find that sometimes that clutter you have to keep under control.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
especially in art, because at the end of the day, like, we're still having our minds blown by bass guitar and drums. Yeah. And so I just think you got to be super careful. But I honestly, this shit gives me a lot of hope, because this is the first time in my lifetime and potentially ever where as a global community, no matter what the fuck you think about this or this, everyone right now is like, I fucking hate my phone. Yeah. Everyone. And that's interesting. Like the fanciest restaurant in 1980 or 90 or 70, it was probably like a quail egg with like a mist of this and this. And the fanciest restaurant in the world right now is a fucking farm.
That's a good one.
It's a farm.
Oh, man, I'm stealing that most expensive. I'm stealing that.
Well, that's cool. But like the most expensive restaurant in the world right now is this cow made your butter and this carrot came out of the ground. It's basically free food. So we're so... The first time, like, I remember the microwave, I remember the cell phone, I remember even the first iPhone. To your point, I love FaceTime. That was a cool invention. But this is the first time where everyone I know, any age, any political leaning group, whatever the fuck, everyone says the same thing, which is, I want off of this ride because I'm missing too much. And to me, that's it's a good thing for culture, but it's really exciting for art because it's there's a preservation happening amongst all the good artists I know.
We weren't designed to be able to process, handle, and not be overwhelmed by algorithms.
And not become apathetic.
Exactly. And we're all exhausted from it, because for wherever it's supposed to help you, we also see the damages that be done and that we have no control. So we're going back to natural stuff.
No, totally. Well, it's like, I mean, it's the conversation about globalism. Like, I think we're also collectively melting down because we're hearing about all these things happening, but we're only wired to really give a shit about 100 or 150 people at a time. Yeah. And the truth is, that's human. And also, I also think you're your best artist if you just focus on your community and you make shit that matters to you and them. And then if that goes like this, cool. But this sort of global thinking is it's anti-art, it's anti-progress, it's not human. Like that, we're not meant to function that way.
I was just going to say it's anti-human.
Yeah.
And so when you take all the other stuff that comes out of that, depression and anxiety and isolating and all the other things that now have dangerous results, we're coming to grips with that. And I'm like you, I'm optimistic that, to the degree that I can take back control, let me do that. It makes my art better.
Yeah. And I bring this shit into the studio too, where it's like, I don't know about you guys, but all my friends who just every new piece of gear, every new plugin, every new anything, with no disrespect to them, I don't see it working. At the end of the day, it's like, I'll buy every cool looking thing in the world, but I'm still on the Benson. I'm still on the Space Echo. You know what I mean? I'll go nuts on this and that. But for whatever reason, Black Spring and Valhalla reverbs, that's just what I use. This is what I use. It's been years. And I try everything. Holy shit, the fucking Abbey Road reverbs. And maybe for someone else, but it's the limitation is often where you find where the light shoots through.
Yeah.
And so I've not in like, some people, you got Jack White taking it all the way where it's just real limitation. But my version of it is like, I know what I need. And it's about 4 synths. It's an M1, it's a Mini Moog, it's a Mellotron, it's a Juno. Sometimes I'll have Prophet 5 there. I don't need a Jupiter. I don't need, a million things. I don't need a, if I want to do something really specific, if I have a vocoder thing, I've got stuff stored away. But like, I think it's easier for artists or people who are engaged in this kind of work to put down the phone sometimes, because in our everyday practice of making art, we're very acquainted with the idea that more can equal less.
Jack, you said you don't want a million things, but you're lying, because you got a fucking million guitar pedals everywhere.
I got a lot of guitar pedals.
Okay, what's up with that?
That's young damage. When I was a kid, I didn't have a studio, so I don't have the damage of wanting everything. I got in a studio when I got a little older, but I was a guitar player as a kid. So part of me, the two places that I have like kid damage of wanting it all is guitar pedals, and I don't like a big drum set, but I love having percussion everywhere. So I'll have like very modest drum set, but then I'll just like go nuts on every weird little bell, and that's probably I
didn't see any Strymons. You got any Strymons?
I got Strymons. That's the delay I use.
Okay,
I like the Big Sky. I really like this company called Old Blood Noise. Sometimes I just go on, the reverb app on the phone that takes all our money. Sometimes I just go in there and we'll just like type in like boutique pedal and just sort of like scroll through for any kind of smaller companies making stuff. But pedals are also fun because
very much fun
for $100. Yeah, you could win or lose. Synths, it's like those are big decisions. You don't want to go buy the synth if you're not sure.
Plus, they can give you a unique sound that you need once in a while in a song.
Yeah, I like using pedals in a way like I got that like Electro Harmonics sitar pedal, which is just like just throwing like a synth through that or like a bass. It's just like very often when I build a song, I'll have like the meat and potatoes of the song, and then I will go through this next phase, which I think is really fun, where it's like, well, now let me just totally fuck around. I have an OB8 in New York, which is a great fuck around machine because it's like really wild. So, let me just take that and put it through a Benson or put it through a pedal and see if I can find one or two transitional moments in the song where this strange thing can be glue. But that's where I get into pedals.
In the way you sort of curate what you use, get it down to the things that make sense to you. Do you do that with what you listen to as well, or are you just on
I don't.
Great question.
I feel some amount of insecurity about this, but I've talked to a lot of people who do what I do, and they seem similar. I wonder if you guys agree. I do an inordinate amount of listening to just what I'm working on, and sometimes months will go by, and I'll just sort of be in these meditative states of demos and mixes where I just listen and listen and listen, and then maybe I'll be hanging out with someone, they'll be like, "Oh, did you hear this?" And I'll say no. And you hear this? And I'll say no. And I'll feel a little bit insecure. And then I'll have to remind myself that it's not my job to do my work the best. I just need to be in this process of myself. And
right.
But it's a thing that can occasionally make me insecure, but I think it's a positive thing at the end of the day. But yeah, I really am in these loops with the things I'm working on. I find myself taking in a lot of new music if I'm not in a big writing phase.
Got it. Yeah,
but if I'm writing, I get a little too protective. Like I don't want anything
to interfere,
to come and I think one of the weird things that can happen if you listen to very modern things is the modern music can tell you what's happening, but if you hear it, it's already over. It already happened because someone decided it was happening a month ago, 3 months ago, 5 months ago. So there's a weird relationship I can get into with modern music where I'm like, almost start to believe that like being inspired by it already puts you behind the curve, and I just sort of want to be only inspired by whatever the hell I'm thinking rather than what someone else is doing.
And I find that I'm okay with this kind of unconscious, unofficial vetting process. Okay, if I don't know about it and you know about it, it'll either reply or whatever. And then I'll check it out because then I'm
music is still everywhere. Like it's not like a book or a movie where it's like if you don't read it or see it, you don't have it. Like like at any point in the day in public, there's just music everywhere.
Absolutely.
So I do feel like I'm getting a healthy dose of it, but yeah, I do get, it's not conscious. I'm not like, don't put on music, or someone put something on, I'm like, I don't want to hear that. I think I get very subconsciously protective over what I'm hearing.
Absolutely. Now, Dave, are you doing a batter's box?
Of course.
Hell yeah.
Ooh.
Hell yeah.
Shit.
I got one little quick question though that's not really
far away.
I should save it.
No, what is it?
Is Super Y, is that dead now? It's for people that don't know, it's a children's show, and it was very, very popular. Some weird things happened in around 2016, but I like, I've got younger kids in my family, and they liked it, and so I'm supposed to ask you that question.
I did a bunch of music for it. Maybe this is like 2010 or 11, and I kind of did all this music and handed it over, and they used a bunch of it. And honestly, it was a blast. I liked I'll tell you one story about that. My favorite part about working on the children's music, which I haven't done in 10 years now, but is that when they tested it, so there was this one song called like Dreams Come True or something. Mm-hmm. And they tested it on kids, and it terrified them.
Wow.
Because the kids thought dreams come true, like the monster's real or whatever it is. And I think I changed that lyric to like anything could happen or something like that. But it was a super fun exercise to work in such a seemingly direct space, because you're talking to children, but actually way deeper than you could have ever imagined. Like the shit that scares children or brings joy to children is so this sounds obvious, but it wasn't to me, remarkably different than entering the consciousness of an adult or a teenager. So I loved it, Dave. I would love to do more children's stuff.
Well, hey, thanks for that. Okay.
All right. So, Dave, you're from Ybor City in Florida. There's a hurricane. There's a tornado. You're about to hit it. Jack's a Jersey boy. There's an athlete. The athletic prowess of Jersey boys is long and on record. So you got to bring your game, buddy. You ready to tee it up?
Yeah. Oh, I'm more than ready.
Here we go. Batter's box.
Yeah. I mean, this is a third one. Of course I can.
Fire away.
Groove.
Everything.
Major or minor key?
Major.
Well, that's wrong. Virtual synth.
Ah! What'd you say?
Virtual synthesizer. Don't be nasty.
Great writing tool.
808s.
The fucking best. Never out of style.
Loops.
Like food, the spectrum's too big.
Tape or tubes?
Oh, that's a fucking tough one. Tubes. Okay.
Auto-tune, Melodyne. What's your thoughts on both of those? One word.
Engineer. Depends on the engineer, but I'll say it's the engineer.
Okay. Melodies.
Great call.
What do you say?
Melodies.
Rare.
Samples.
Taste.
Favorite plugin?
Lossy.
Biggest influence? Pick one. Interview or Enema?
Interview.
Okay.
Wow.
Herb, I had to go for it because I'm losing, but I won this one.
Can I do a flipped batter's box?
Yes.
Ready, Dave?
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
You're doing one with me?
Benson or Space Echo?
Echo Rec. Golly, what's the group? Next.
Wow. Okay.
Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah, that's all Echo Rec. Okay. Plate.
140 EMT.
Interesting. Okay. Thriller.
Dances.
Herbie Hancock.
The beginning of hip hop.
Lunch order.
Food.
Herb.
Yes, sir.
No, that's the one, Herb.
Herb.
Brilliant, intelligent, my friend, and sometimes my enemy.
Ooh, SSL.
K series, K9000.
Interesting. All right, last one. Huff, I feel like I'm losing big time to Dave. I feel like he came prepared.
I am prepared.
Favorite plugin?
Mine.
Done. Mine. Okay, and then last question for both of you. When do I get to come into the studio? When is it post-COVID Pensado?
Well, I don't leave the house, so anytime, give me a call. You're here.
Okay.
Sam does it. He does a test every day for me, for him, and I've in the last 4 months, I've probably put 100 miles on my car. That's it.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that all COVID or is that always?
No, it's just I don't like where I'm at right now emotionally, because I'm turning into an introvert. So I had some people come by yesterday. Yeah. I want to be out more and be part of things. As you age, I'm not trying to be flippant, but as you age, your world shrinks, and all the people that you used to know, they're damn dead, So,
but what's crazy, but then also as you age, is more important than ever to share all the knowledge. So it's like it's a double. One of my favorite things to do is to spend time and talk with people who've been doing the work for many years. So it's almost like more important than ever, because you just got a bunch of.
I mean, I started at 6 months of age. That's when my mother started me.
All right, now before this goes off into Dr. Phil land, because that's where it's headed.
We can probably talk about this forever, and I won't let it go off. But I just want to say that no one talks about this really crazy truth, which is how many people just come and fucking go in all lines of work. For a million reasons, they burn out, they fuck it up, whatever it is. So I get so much power from people who've been doing something they love for an extended period of time, whether that's working on cars, being in the studio, building houses, whatever it is. So it's so for the sake of humanity, Dave, get out there.
People like you and I, we don't do this. This is our lifestyle. We don't know. We can't stop doing our lifestyle.
Totally.
And that's true of a lot of passion jobs. Like I'm a fan of chef shows. I don't cook, but the process of them creating what they do, what they turn out, the things they have to focus on, how to get there, what can go wrong.
I watch all these shows too. I think it's so similar to record making.
It is so similar.
So similar.
And I'm always surprised at the effect it has on me to watch. It's almost other than NBA, I almost don't watch anything else. So
it's the feeling of watching people who are as obsessive and
absolutely
and deeply believing in their work, where there's no cynicism, there is no wink, there is no joke, there's no schmaltz, there's no like, but we're not curing cancer. No, we're doing the most important shit in the world. I always hated that phrase, and we're not curing cancer, because I think you got to believe in everything you do. Like, it's not rocket science. It is fucking rocket science. More important than rocket science.
And that food is art. You're making art. And so I want to go back to your question and tell you is that I can't tell you yet, but in a minute, not very far away, I will have a place for you to visit. That is our studio. That will include where we shoot, where you can shoot and do other stuff. And it's going to be off the chain. It's going to be very Antonoff-esque.
Let me know. I'm waiting.
Oh yeah, no. I got a few things we'll do. I'll hook up with Leslie and we'll get it done. But just in closing, for our audience, what you heard for the last hour are people being people, and humans talking about human things, and how much we have passion and clarity for what we do, and ultimately how much we respect it. And how much we want to try to honor it, but also still be stimulated by it and grow by it and not make it cookie cutter. And I hope you're able to take that away forget Dave and I, and we get so much love. There's a reason Jack Antonoff is literally maybe our most requested guest, because people learn from him, and oftentimes we don't even get to the music he's doing because the humanity of what he is just, it's just so inspiring. Dude, it is easy for me to say, and I think this is representative of all of us. We love your ass.
I love you guys. And whenever you guys are ready, let's do the editor's cut. I'll come down. We'll talk for 3 hours.
Okay. Oh, absolutely.
The members only cut. Yeah.
We'll set that up, and it's going to work out on a number of fronts. Shout out to the incredible Leslie Lewis for always hooking us up and making it go. Jack, we are inspired every time we talk to you. And,
same here. I love you guys.
I love you to death.
And I hate to be a little bitch and just ask for things, but I want those pictures. You let me know what I got to do. I want those pictures.
Done. I'm literally, when we hit end record, I'll be taking these off the wall to a person to duplicate them, and you are going to get them for sure. And we're going to sign them.
So I cannot wait. They're going right up in my studio.
Yeah. Thanks for the batter's box. That was fun. I appreciate it.
It was great.
Yeah. You know what? Great. Next time I'm going to prepare harder. I did. You know, I want to. Yeah. I went down in flames against Dave, but next time.
No, you didn't. Actually,
I got tripped up over Dark Side of the Moon. But.
And by the way, the only batter's box that's come back at Dave ever in 560 some odd episodes.
I know. And it was fun.
I'm going to keep them coming. Keep them
coming, baby. Keep them coming. Jack Antonoff, we love you.
Love you guys. Stay in touch.
Audience, we'll see you next week. And as usual, always wonderful.
Love you guys.